glad that you're here, Laura, because I'm actually going to talk about the volcanic eruption and, things that you're familiar with, and you can probably comment, and we can possibly have, healthy discussions and see if we can get some public education about what is going on, with respect to the volcanic eruption. Tamika and Tia, thank you. Yes, I just took it off. Right, so yeah, so let's just wait a little bit for more people to join. And basically, that's what the live is about tonight. I'm going to talk about the La Soufriere volcanic eruptions that have been taking place and is ongoing, and the seriousness of that volcanic eruption. And I think we in the Caribbean, especially Trinidad, we feel like it's not going to impact us. So I want you all to ask yourself that question: do you think that the volcanic eruption is going to impact Trinidad and Tobago? And basically, I just want to have some healthy discussion on the eruption and ways in which we can possibly help St. Vincent, the Vincentian population, how we can meet some of their needs and what we can do in the meantime, since we have all this folk go on in, let us see how we can generate healthy discussion. So thanks for everyone. So I'll just start. I don't know if you all are familiar with the song that I was playing previously. It's called Red Plastic Bag Volcano, and it basically describes the volcanic eruption and what happens. So as a geographer, geologist, my background is in geology and geography. That's what I studied at university. I have always been very interested in natural disasters, natural disaster management. It was one of the first areas I explored when I finished school. So it is dear to me, and of course, I'm in love with with this field of study, and very interesting. We're in very interesting. This whole experience is very intriguing at the same time, because as a geographer, geologist, you want to know more, you want to see more, but at the same time, it's so heavily weighing on my emotions, because I know how devastating it can be, and people are truly not, I think, people in Trinidad are just not aware, or we don't appreciate the extent of the severity of um, this event that is taking place. So practically, I wanted to clear up a few things. So the volcanic eruption is what we call a hazard, right? And before a hazard can take place, you have an event. So the event that leads to volcanic eruption, it's plate tectonics, right? The movement of plates, either at the collision boundaries, convergent boundary, subduction zone, divergent boundaries, and this would lead to volcanic activity. We know that La Soufriere is one of those volcanoes in the Caribbean, and there are several La Soufrieres throughout the Caribbean region. And this particular volcano in St. Vincent has been, dormant for a while, and it's dormant meaning it's sleeping. And when a volcano is dormant, it has the ability to become active again. So you have that volcano being active for a period of time. So since before December, there was live updates, seismic UE has been going through what has been happening, and basically alerting us. So from the time I saw that, I have been monitoring what has been going on with the volcano, just because it's of such great interest to me. And I just had this inclination as as in, this volcano could possibly erupt based on historical trends, etc. So if you have questions, and I'm going very fast, feel free to drop your comments, ask questions. This is what I really want. I want people to become aware, people to be, more conscious of what is happening, because although we are not affected directly, indirectly we will be affected. There is no if, no doubt, no maybe. We are indirectly affected by what is happening. So that is the volcanic event that leads to the hazard, which is the volcanic eruption. And it's nice. So many people message me, ask me question. One person asks, and this is why I'm doing the live, so that I can clear up people misconception, people who are asking stuff. So one particular person asked me, why isn't the volcano erupting lava, right? So one of the things with volcanic eruptions, there are different types of volcanoes, and the different types of volcanoes will produce a different style of eruption or different volcanic eruption style. And of course, based on that eruption style, of course, the content of the magma itself, because once it's within the volcano, we call it magma, and once it's ejected and it reaches onto the surface, we call that lava. So the content of the magma within the volcano also determines that type of eruption, the eruption that would take place. So in simple terms, let's just go with the basic versus acidic lava. Basic lava is more runny, and that is what gives us these nice lava flows. Well, not nice, but you know what I mean. Lava flows, and it will cover a large aerial extent, and they of course would produce they are formed from volcanoes that are less violent, so shield volcanoes, whereas you have composite volcano that is made up of alternating layers of ash and lava, because the magma has a higher viscosity content, and the magma itself, the content or gas content, acidity, it's all different. So in this case, we have seen where Soufriere is practically erupting very explosively, which we call a Plinian type eruption. And if you are into the geography of it, you probably would have come across this. And basically what it means is that it erupts in a very explosive manner. These huge clouds of ash powered by gas, sulfur content, is shoot very high up into the atmosphere. And of course, you would see that when they give us the report in terms of UE seismic research, they are letting us know how high the clouds or the eruption, the ash cloud, is going into the atmosphere. Why? Because of course, when the volcano erupts and this goes higher into the atmosphere, of course it's going to change, of course, what happens in the atmosphere, which also have implication. Hi Tanya, thanks for joining me. Implication on the weather as well. More dust particles, ash, that helps to form rain, so you can have thunder showers. So that ash column, the ash itself, is very problematic. People looking at it, and they don't understand that sometimes this ash can even be more devastating than a lava flow, which is running. They are both very dangerous. So what I really wanted to also distinguish between is what we refer to as primary hazard and secondary hazard. What is a hazard? So a hazard is anything. Thanks, Tonya. Yes, I'm trying to get solid information out there. I think a lot of people, they are still not aware of how this is going to impact on us, even in Trinidad, indirectly. So I am just here to make people more aware. Is it possible to become a lava flow? It is. We do not know, right? Yes, Laura, because initially it was effusive. You may remember effusive is the initial start of the eruption. So before it became in this explosive state, so if you follow the updates before December, it was effusive meaning that it's giving off gas and you get that sulfur content, and it's not really eruptive, you know. So that is why they called it effusive. And then of course effusive can become explosive, and then explosive can then of course when the volcano probably the eruption probably died down, it can go back into that state of effusive, just like when it's active and when it's dormant. Does that make sense, Laurie? You'll let me know. And if I'm being too technical, also let me know, because I want to be as simple so that people understand. Yes, you can associate it with the types, but remember everything in this discipline is very complex. Geography is a very complex study, geology behind that. As you can see, what is happening with climate change, what we learn in theory is just basics, and what we see in the environment is so extreme. So you as a person now have to take the knowledge that you have and sort of, make sense of it. So that is the effusive state that became, explosive. And when you have that pyroclastic cloud and so forth, well, we know that those are more explosive eruption styles. And what is very interesting is that I never thought that I would be, living to see the day that the Caribbean region, we in itself, would be going through this motion of experiencing this volcanic eruption so close to us. And imagine, I would always use literature and videos from outside of the region. It is really something of concern. Hi Danny B. Conceive, I see that you requested to be in the live. I'm not sure. You can tell me exactly who you are, and thanks for joining me, and how you want to become part of this, what you want to do, etc. So I was explaining the difference between primary hazard, which is basically what happens exactly when the volcanic eruption takes place. Yeah, okay, great. Thanks for joining me. Basically, you have that explosion, you have ash, you have lava. That is the primary, the trembling, the tremors that takes place, the gas content in the atmosphere. And then you have the secondary hazard. And for me, I think sometimes the secondary hazard can even be more problematic or more hazardous to us, than the primary hazard. So the secondary hazard is what actually comes after. So earthquake activity, tsunamis, where you have now these ash fall that is continually falling for days and sometimes weeks, it becomes, a great challenge. So one of the things worth mentioning is to distinguish between what are the primary and what are the secondary hazards of this volcanic eruption. And I think for us in the wider Caribbean, like Trinidad, St. Lucia, Grenada, we are some way going to experience, of course, the indirect or the secondary impacts of the hazards, right? So the secondary hazards. So, for example, earthquake activity, we have to be on high alert for that. Also, tsunamis, if this generates large the tremors are huge enough, it can generate, tsunamis or large waves that can cause storm surges, coastal erosion. It's just so many things. And I want to distinguish between what is a hazard and what is a disaster. So the hazard is the actual threat to human life, property, the environment. It's a threat, right? And the disaster is actually the outcome of that hazard, whether it leads to loss of life, death. Loss of life and death is the same thing, sorry. Damage to property, destruction of your crops, the loss of revenue, all of that is what we will refer to as, a disaster. Currently, the state that we are seeing, what is happening with the Hi Malones, thanks for joining. What we are currently seeing is that this has the ability of course, or if it's not already in that state of disaster, because we are seeing houses being covered with ash. We are seeing the hazards themselves, this pyroclastic cloud. So this ash column that we're seeing, it's called a pyroclastic cloud, a pyroclastic flow. And why it's called a flow is because, of course, it's buoyant, it's in the air, and it can travel for miles and miles and miles. And of course, with the winds, it's going to carry it. So if you notice what has happened with the ash, it has moved, it erupted in St. Vincent, but the wind is taking it in the part of Barbados, which is causing a lot of complications over there because they are now experiencing this massive ashfall. And I don't think people are aware of how dangerous, ash is, the ashfall. So basically, with ash, it's very light. I'm not too sure if anybody ever seen ash or felt ash, but it's very light, which means that it can move very easily if blown. And what happens when rain falls, this ash has the potential to then become what we call a lahar or mud flow, which is basically it becomes runny, and that in itself it becomes very slippery. A lot of implications for the roads, because the ash is directly falling on the roads, the mountains. If we have very strong rain, powerful, thunderstorms or rainfall, it's going to mobilize that ash, and it's going to cause, of course, a lot of problems for us. Yes, Tonya. Hi, Christine. Thanks for joining. So the lahar itself is one problem in that it can cause a lot of accidents on the road. And this is, the volcano did not erupt in Barbados, but we are seeing the extent of the ash being covered, in Barbados on the roads, and that has a lot of implication. They have not seen, it's blocking out all of the sunlight. Can you picture this? I want you all to imagine this. You have ash that is falling, right? It's so fine that it's coming into your home. Imagine we in Trinidad and Tobago, we experience, hi Katia, hi, always beautiful. Thanks for joining me. So I want this to be very interactive. If you all have questions, shoot, comment. I want to get the best out of this session, right? So I'm saying to create this in your head. We in Trinidad, I don't think we are fully aware of the extent of how severe this volcanic eruption is. So think of this situation. When we experience Sahara dust, you see that Sahara dust all over your car. You see it in your house. Imagine you have this ash cloud that is falling, literally falling like rain, right? And it's falling, it's covering, the floor, it's getting into your house. You have your windows closed, but you can't turn on a fan. You can't turn on a fan because the ash is so light that it's going to blow it, right? And you cannot turn on an air condition because the ash is going to get into that and damage it. So it's very complex, and you are now trapped inside of a house, and that is how, people suffocate to death, especially people who have respiratory illnesses, people who suffer from asthma, people who have breathing issues, sinuses, you can suffocate. So one of the things that, you can do is get, people who are in the wider Caribbean islands closer, like Barbados, and even us in Trinidad, that experience this influx of Sahara dust, and we can also possibly get that ash blowing this way, which means it's going to compound what is currently happening with the Sahara dust in the atmosphere and this influx of ash, right? So you need to get things like humidifiers that will sort of give you moisture in your atmosphere and purify the air, because it's going to be very hard to breathe. You have to get your mask. You can wet your mask. You need something protection for your eyes, like goggles or a mask. If especially if you plan on going outside, people in Barbados, in Vincent, those islands that are experiencing those heavy ash falls, stay inside. Inside is the safest place. Being outside, you don't know what can happen at any time, because I'm seeing images where the roads are being cracked, and we don't know if that is from poor infrastructure, meaning the building itself, the structure is weakened, or is it a fault line that is splitting. And we know with volcanic eruption, faults can be reactivated, or you can have new faults, which is another thing altogether. So again, remember, I said if I'm being very technical, stop me. I want to speak in very simple terms so everybody understand what I'm saying. So what a fault is basically a crack, which um, it generates earthquake activity because of displacement, right? So with the ash, again, stay inside. You don't know what is going to happen outside. Stock up on your food. Cover your water sources, because ash will not dissolve and it can contaminate your water supplies. And if you all have heard, people in St. Vincent, they already don't have water because of course they locked off some of the water sources because of contamination, and reservoirs will be contaminated. So imagine for months, or weeks, we don't know, because the seismic research unit is predicting at least 4 months, 4 months of this ongoing eruption, and these people not going to have any water. So us, in Trinidad, we are in our comfort. We are in the comfort of our home. I'm asking, was there another eruption today? Yes, there was another eruption earlier this morning, and it has been continuously going. So another thing I was gonna explain. Another person asked me. They said, I thought the volcano blew or it erupted, and I had to explain to them, a volcanic eruption, it operates similar to, like, any other natural hazards, like, let us say, flooding. When a flood takes place, it doesn't automatically subside. It takes, or go down, it takes a while before it drains off. Just like a hurricane, if it continues to be fed by heat, it continues to grow in intensity and the categories change. Volcanic eruption is the same thing. Remember, it is this pressure that is being built up with the magma chamber. And remember, this volcano have been dormant for some time, so that pressure there, the release, so what it's actually doing is releasing that energy through the eruptions, which is very good. It's the same thing that earthquakes, when we have earthquakes, that takes place. And that's why sometimes we have aftershocks. What are aftershocks? Aftershocks are basically smaller earthquakes, or earthquakes that can also be larger than the primary earthquake, right? After and that can also follow hours and days. So with volcanic eruption, it's the same thing. We don't know how long. It may be a series of smaller tremors, smaller eruption, releases. It may go back into an effusive state, but the thing is, we don't know. You never know with natural hazards like volcanoes and earthquakes. They are so unpredictable, and I think that is what happened with some of the residents, that was in the red and orange zone, that did not want to evacuate. They did not think that it would have been so serious, and that is sad. And I understand that some people, they have an attachment to their home. Like a friend of mine was saying, They have family there that didn't want to leave because they have a farm. So, people study, oh my God, I have animals. What is going to happen? Are they going to leave them there to suffocate and die? It's a lot of things to think about in this time. Thanks, Danny. I'm trying my best to be very layman terms so that people understand and appreciate the information, because I think it's important to bring this awareness to people that I think people just are not connecting the dots. So, with that, eruption is going to be around for some time, which means they did not evacuate, right? And there are still people who did not evacuate. My concern with that is, Tonya, is that ashfall, because they are so close, right? And they are in homes. If their infrastructure, meaning their roofs, are not very sturdy, ash becomes very heavy, and if rain falls, it becomes compacted. And that is what happened today. Rain fell, it becomes muddy, it becomes slippery, and if it's compacted, then it becomes heavier, and that is how, of course, roofs cave in and it cover houses, and of course the structure itself can collapse. It is a scary thing. I believe knowledge is power. When I finished school, my interest, I was so passionate about disaster management. I still am. I focus a lot on flooding and landslide because that is what we experience here in Trinidad and Tobago. So it's something that I always took very seriously, and I was telling people that we in Trinidad, we always think it can never happen, but the effects, whether it's directly it may not affect us, but indirectly it will. Another thing that is happening that people are not connecting, that will impact us, is that now there's a refugee crisis. What is a refugee crisis? It means people who are displaced, and we already have the problem here with Venezuelans seeking asylum here, right, or becoming refugees in Trinidad and Tobago. It's the same thing that is going to happen. The Prime Minister, Mr. Ralph, Prime Minister, the Honorable Ralph, hi, Smalley, 15, hi, Ray, thanks for joining. I'm just discussing, we're just having some healthy discussion on the volcanic eruption and how important it is that we are aware and be alert and be prepared for anything. So he has already got the okay from Barbados, St. Lucia, Martinique, and a couple other islands to accept residents from St. Vincent, which means that apart from dealing with the volcanic eruption, we are also dealing with the pandemic and COVID-19, and now the issue of having people moving from this state where they were evacuating and everybody was panicking. There was no social distancing, so very well COVID numbers might go up. So it's a very complex situation, and if you are moving these people into these islands, unless they have a negative COVID test to get into the country, I think that's probably one of the only way that it will probably keep the numbers down. And even with people accepting people into their homes, it means it's going to place a strain on the resources of the economy, the resources of the individuals' homes. So imagine you have family in St. Vincent, and we all know that the Caribbean is one region. We have so many relatives across the region and friends. And if they have to evacuate, and the Prime Minister has already given the go-ahead for the residents to leave if they cannot deal with the ash. He said if you need to leave, go, because they have been given the okay, right? Let me pause. I'm getting a question. Are there other areas on the island that have not been affected in terms of movement to other islands versus another part of Vinci? No, Christy, at this stage, the green zone itself is also not safe. So everywhere is covered with ash. So really and truly, if this is continuing for months, people may have to leave. And that is what happened with Montserrat and their volcanic eruption. One of the good things with that eruption, I can say, is that they were an overseas territory, meaning they had ties to France, or they still have ties to France. So a lot of the population migrated to France. In St. Vincent, they are an independent country, so it means that their population is going to feed into the nearby Caribbean islands, Barbados, and it's already happening where they have sent the cruise ships out. I think some of them may remain on cruise ships, which means that they're going to be out at sea. It is a very complex thing. So I'm saying, with Trinidad, we think we are not affected. People believe that because they are in the comfort, but it's going to put a strain on resources, especially if we are going to receive all our residents that were previously in St. Vincent, because the government have been given the okay for them to come in without any they normally have to be on the waiting list to get exempted. They have waived the exemptions, which means that they're going to return home once the airports are open. I'm not too sure if you all heard, but the airports are also closed because of the visibility meaning how far you can see ahead of you. So with the ash in the atmosphere, because it's so smoggy, you can't see very far. So what is, of course, airplanes can fly, which makes everything so much more complex. So a lot of them are going by boat, and even that to navigation on sea, it will also become a problem. So it's a very complex situation. Some of them are on the cruise liners, and that was really nice of the cruise liners, because they access our region for cruises to really be there in a time like this to take some of them. So they have evacuated St. Vincent and they are feeding them into the cruise ship. Some of them are trying to come back to their home islands. For example, people who are Trinidadians by birth, or people who have residence are trying to get them over. So that is the situation. So what I'm saying, we in Trinidad, we are indirectly impacted by it, all of the other islands, and I think we need to take it seriously, because you don't know what is going to happen in terms of the ash. We don't know if the eruption is going to get more intense, or is it going to get less intense, or it's going to subside. We don't know for how long, and just be prepared. So how many of you all have a disaster preparedness kit? I did a live earlier and I showed my disaster preparedness kit. Do you know what is in it? I did a live before. I did a whole live on disaster preparedness sometime last year. I would share it again on my Facebook page so that people could build their kits. I know a lot of people don't have them, but important things that you would need, things like your medication in this instance. People who are asthmatic, you're gonna need your inhalers. You're gonna need that people who have allergies, Piriton, all of these different things for rashes. You don't know, because the sulfur content in the ash is way above what we normally would deal with if you have sulfur in the atmosphere. So you don't know the impacts. Make sure you have things for allergies. Get a humidifier. If you need to get an inhaler, get some of these things, your ventilation. If you have problem breathing, make sure you get the medication that would help. get your medication. Very important is the use of masks. It's going to come in handy, just like how we use it for COVID-19. It's going to help, to keep that ash away. Breathing, breathing problems, again, is going to help to keep away the ash. Goggles if you're going outside. Keeping a wet cloth to sort of give you that moisture back. People eyes, people have allergies. Put those medications. You need medication. You need, of course, you're gonna need things for like cuts and bruises and all of these other things. Basically, a complete first aid kit. So you should also have in this preparedness. You should also have or create a preparedness plan, which should involve, of course, educating your children. A lot of the times we have, like, I was looking at these images and you see children standing there and they don't know what to do. And I've seen reports where they're saying, for this person is missing, this child is missing. You need to have an emergency plan. Communicate that with your family, with the kids. Let them know if this is supposed to happen, where are we all gonna meet, what do you plan to take? Do you have an idea in your head? What are the items that you plan to grab? Do you have a kit that is with you, with things like your toiletries that you can grab and go? Those are things that you want to have ready, so you just go with it, because in a natural disaster, you don't have time to think about these things. You have the time now. Think about it now. Put your plan in action. With people with children, having to deal with children, and imagine having to go to a shelter and they are not comfortable because they don't have their favorite toy, or their favorite blanket. Children need certain things that they need to sleep with. Those are things that you may have to consider packing, because you don't want that additional stress of the child being uncomfortable and they're crying and bawling. Communicate the plan so that the children are aware, okay, this is what is happening. We need to help mom, we need to help dad. So that is an emergency plan. You should have one. Communicated with your family members. Who you're gonna contact? What are you going to do? Where's the muster point? Where's your closest shelter? All of these things you need to have. Who are the first responders in your area? How far is it from you? Do you know these things? And if you don't, this is the purpose of the life, to get you thinking. It's very serious, and I can't stress it. I did the live before on disaster preparedness. I have my kit. It's in a nice kit, so I could just pick it up and run. I have a grab and go bag with toiletries. You need those things. You need to have, your non-perishable food, because you may not have gas for some time. Things like water. If water becomes contaminated, do you have 5 gallons at home? How much water you have stored? These are very, very important things. We may not have to go to that extremities in Trinidad, but people in Barbados and St. Vincent, those that have experience in the ashfall, it is really, really crucial. So think about that. Put that disaster preparedness plan in action. It's not too late, guys. You have enough time. And with everything that is going on, remember to have your mask. We are still in a pandemic. Remember to be calm, social distance. I can't stress that enough, right? And the last thing that I wanted to talk about was relief. What is relief? And basically, what can you do? So relief is basically, how we give aid, or how we lend aid to the countries that are being impacted by the natural hazards. In this case, Barbados and Vincent are experiencing the brunt of all the ash flows. What they would need. I've posted. If you don't know my Facebook is Leah Sunshine Fuchong. My group is Change Makers for the Environment. You can find it on both Facebook and Instagram. You can follow me. I'm doing a lot of live updates. You will see the list of items that are needed. And the thing with relief, always partner with institutions that are reputable. because sometimes the aid don't reach to those who are in need. So partner with the institutions um, that are reputable, and one that I know of that we have worked with. I am a teacher, so when we have natural disasters in the Caribbean, we have partnered with Is There Not a Cause, which is ICNAC, and they are also on Facebook, and Avalon is the person in charge of that. And we send our contributions through that organization. One of the things that I want to do is to raise funds to donate a water tank, because that is going to be very, very important in this time. It's very crucial. So look for organizations. Hi Brittany, thanks for joining, that are reputable and that you can give. Hi Nika, thanks for joining. I'm just discussing the volcanic eruption and the implications for us in the wider Caribbean. I think people are not making that connection of how important that is. So our resources are going to be split. We are already dealing with COVID-19. Dealing with a natural disaster in face of a pandemic is something new. I don't think it's something that we have ever done before. So we don't even know how this is going to turn out. So we're going to need, the Caribbean region. We need to all stick together. We need to, be our brother's keeper. I'm sure we all have friends from the other island. We have family in the other islands that would need our help. Whatever you have little, find a reputable agency and give. Sometimes we live in this bubble in Trinidad. We are so comfortable. People are lying, people are going on, and there's basically crisis just right next to us. For me, I can't even fathom. I can't sleep properly because I have friends. We formed this group. My friends from university, because I studied at Mona, we all in this group, and we on this chat, we're talking about it because we are geologists and geographers. So we are so interested, and it's so sad what is happening, because you are getting the reality of it, people living in the islands and what is happening. So for us in Trinidad, we can help. We have the ability to send resources, whatever little you can. Find reputable agencies. On my Facebook pages, Instagram pages, I have been posting a lot of information in the group on my page on Facebook, where you can find reputable agencies to give your donations to give your items that you would like to send, right? And also don't go buying arbitrary things. The countries themselves are going to tell you what are in need, right? I see people requesting, one group is stating that they need inhalers, they need ventilators, people who are asthmatic. Because remember, I was describing this situation. Imagine being trapped in a house and you cannot open the windows because ash is falling, right? You can possibly suffocate to death if you don't have breathing mechanism. People who are asthmatic, so they need things like the asthma pumps, ventilators. You want to find out what exactly they need. You just don't want to buy stuff and give. So the information is on my pages. Check it out, and I really hope that this was helpful. It's gonna get you thinking. It's going to put you in a frame of mind to become prepared. Build your disaster management kit and set in motion your emergency plan. You should have an emergency plan for your family, for your home. We don't know how long the volcano will erupt for. We don't know how long we're going to experience these hazards. And in Trinidad and the wider Caribbean, we should all be on our high alert for things like earthquakes and tsunamis, which are also very dangerous natural hazards. And y'all, 2021, this 21st century is being very wild. very wild because I'm seeing today we had like 56 cases and one new death COVID-19. Like I'm ready to start to go back into hibernation, right? I'm thankful that I really went to Tobago and I had a good time, but I think it's time to really now, y'all, we need to go back in. I think it's safer in than out, really and truly. Outside is becoming scary. um, Numbers are going up here. If we are receiving nationals from St. Vincent and the neighboring islands, it means that the potential for COVID-19 to go up is also going to be higher. So I'm saying, we are not directly impacted by the primary hazards of the volcanic eruption, but indirectly we definitely are. As a region, the resources are. Imagine we have the state of crisis in the Caribbean, and the chairperson or the chairman of CARICOM has COVID-19. Our PM, he is the chairman and he has COVID-19. It is just so much. So be safe, you all. Set in motion your disaster preparedness plans, your emergency plan. Seek to give relief to reputable agencies, and if you can stay inside, go for the necessities. um, so that's it. If you want to leave a comment, you want to say something before I leave, if you want to ask anything, now is the time. Thanks for joining me, and please share the live, please share the recording, get the word out. So it was nice, for having all of you all here tonight. I'll say bye now. Bye.